now we're getting to the section that I have selected for our close reading this particular Shabbat, and I called it the hope of Israel. Now, it's found in Exodus chapter 33, verses 12 to 23. All right? Now, but before I do that, I wanted to go ahead and get started and read with you from a different text that's found actually in some of the prior chapters, but is nevertheless very, very important. As a matter of fact, it's crucial in order to understand what is going on in the chapters that we're actually considering today. All right, so Exodus 23:20, if you are able to read Hebrew, you could go ahead and do that. Just follow in English for now. And part of this program, we will actually teach you how to pronounce and make sense of the Hebrew alphabet. So hang in there, no matter where you are in your Certificate in Jewish Context and Culture program, you will at some point will learn how to pronounce Hebrew. So don't be put off, just begin to slowly pick up on things here and there. All right, so here's what it says in Hebrew. Hine anochi sholeach malach lefanecha lishmercha baderech leaviecha el hamakom asher chachonoti. So this is actually normally translated as, behold, I send an angel. But as you could tell, I actually changed already translation for you to a more faithful translation of a messenger. So let me just remove this drawings and you could see. The word for messenger here, or that's sometimes translated as an angel, actually most of the times translated as an angel, is malach. Angel should be invoking in our minds not so much some kind of heavenly being with wings necessarily, but a messenger of God that walks back and forth between God and the people on the face of the earth, that God is sending this particular messenger to either deliver a message or to do something or other. So this particular messenger, God basically told Moses that, yes, Moses, you can count on the heavenly protection. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to send a messenger before you. Now, some of you, if you are able already to read Hebrew, you could see that what we translate as before you is really before your face, lefanecha, before your face. Now, face, and everything in Hebrew really, Hebrew is a very concrete, it's very physical language. The face is pretty much could be translated as your presence or the very you. This is who you are. This is so. If God's face is going with you, it means that God Himself is going with you. And if God is sending a messenger before your face, this is the best translation we can get. Is that God is saying, I will send a messenger before you to make sure that you get there, to protect you along the way, and to bring you to the place hamakom asher hanoti, the place that I have prepared or actually fixed or established. Okay, but this is where the difficulty really is beginning. Okay, it also says here that God is warning Moses, and He's warning through Moses the people of Israel. To disobey this messenger is a dangerous thing indeed. This is pretty good translation here. Take heed of him and hearken unto his voice. Be not rebellious against him, for he will not pardon your transgression. Ki lo isa lepi shachem. That he will not literally, he will not lift up your transgressions. Ki shmi bikirbo, for my name is within his inner being, inmost parts. This is more or less the translation, I think, that should be given. All right, so there is a bit of a problem here, of course. And the problem is that while God is saying that he will send his angel to accompany Israel, so Israel can count on the resources of heaven, Israel can indeed count on God's messenger to come and protect them. It is not God that is coming, but his messenger. All right, and we will see later that this will be considered by Moshe, by Moses, as a bit problematic. All right, and he will take an issue with God over this. Now, by the way, this is the kind of thing that you will encounter over and over and over in the Hebrew Bible, not just Hebrew Bible, New Testament as well. Certainly, the rest of the, not just the Torah, the Nevi'im, the Ketuvim, writings of the prophets, is that people that are described, the biblical characters that are described in the Hebrew Bible, have a very interesting relationship with the God of the Bible, and that is that they are willing to, sometimes in fear and trepidation, to enter into almost a challenge-like kind of relationship with God and talk to him in a most, what would be considered today by many Christians and certainly Muslims, as completely inappropriate way of relating to God. So Abraham could say, for example, to God, Chalil alecha, or something like, well, God forbid, far it be from you to do such a thing. I mean, today's believers, mostly in Christian and Muslim traditions I'm talking about, and Jewish traditions as well, but less so, do not have such an open and confident relationship with God that they're able to talk with him like this, so passionately, and with this kind of language. But I think that this is one of the things that we are finding out about the ancient faith of Israel, is that the featured biblical characters entered in the kind of relationship with God where they could sometimes get very audacious. They're able to challenge God, and what's interesting is that God is not threatened at all by that. God very much prefers that his prophets would speak with him this way, that they would not speak to him at all. Many years ago, must have been 25 years ago, something to that effect, I remember speaking with a Holocaust survivor. I remember I lived at the time in New York, and she lived in a Jewish Orthodox neighborhood, where I was renting a small apartment. Actually, it wasn't an apartment, it was really a studio. And I attempted to speak with her about the Lord. And she told me that all of her family had perished in Auschwitz, or one of the camps, and that she has not spoken to God ever since. And she's not planning to. This was now obviously a Jewish Holocaust in this case is a very, very painful issue for many people, especially those who have lost parents, for example, survived themselves, lost parents, lost siblings. But again, the reason I'm bringing this up is that God of the Bible actually prefers you to get impatient with him, speaking with him in a very strong kind of way, but to actually speak with him. Because in this case, the relationships are still going on, you see. And he's a big boy, he can take it, so to speak. So the issue here, I think, that Moses has understood already from Exodus 23, 20 to 21, is that while it's good that an angel is coming to take care of Israel along the way, it also comes with this particular gift comes with a string, and that is that in the case of rebellion against God through this messenger, Israel must not count on forgiveness. He will not pardon. He will not literally lift up your transgression. All right. This is very interesting. We normally pass this by. and yet it's there, and we will see how this will actually play into the rest of the story. Now, I'm skipping a bit of it, but I'd like to go ahead and pick up, begin reading here. ויאמר משה אל אדוני, ראה אתה אומר אלי העל את העם הזה, ואתה לא הודני את אשר תשלח עמי. So Moses said to the Lord, see, you say to me, lead this people forward, but you have not made known to me whom you will send with me. You see, it's only if you understand that malach should not be translated as simply angel. Because if you do, then this doesn't make sense, right? Moses is saying, well, Hashem, you told me to go ahead and lead them, but you didn't say who are you sending with me? And you'd say, what do you mean he didn't send? Of course he did. He'll send an angel. No, but malach in Hebrew doesn't mean an angel. It means a messenger. And a messenger could be anybody, all right? Could really be anyone. Further, you have said, I have singled you out by my name, and you have indeed gained my favor. Let's see how it says in Hebrew, and just to highlight for you sometimes the exact correspondence and sometimes how the translation misses things. So, ve'ata amarta yadaticha bashem. So this is interesting. Let's see, the translation says, you have said, and by the way, I'm using here Jewish Publication Society translation, just in case you're wondering. A translation that I like to use is New American Standard Bible. Oftentimes the reason for it is because it's a bit wooden, and so it kind of sticks to the word-by-word translation. Not always, but it does so probably more than many other versions. And I like to use that a lot, especially when I'm comparing Hebrew and English. But in this case, I'm just going with the Standard Jewish Publication Society. And look how the translation committee handled this particular phrase. You have said, I have singled you out by name. That's not exactly what it says in Hebrew. What it says in Hebrew is this. And you said that, well, that is not here. It's like a quotation. I knew you by name. So this is what it literally means. Yadaticha. This is a compound word. I knew you. This is all of this is one word in Hebrew. Yadaticha bashem. I knew you by name. Okay, and this is also an interesting expression. Vegam matzatachen be'enai. Up until today, even in modern Hebrew, we very often say to each other, literally, did this find favor? Did this find grace in your eyes? This is exactly what it says literally. Matzata chen be'enai. Moses is quoting God here, and he says that you have found grace in my eyes. All right? So literally. All right? So what we're being prepared here in the text to understand is that Moses is beginning this conversation with God, and he's saying, God, this is great that you told me that you're going to send a messenger. I don't know who this messenger is. Who is it that's going to go? You haven't told me anything. You did say that you knew me by my name, okay, and that I have gained favor with you, that I have gained grace in your eyes. Now, this is interesting because really, Torah, and this is why, folks, we should not call the Torah law. By the way, we've put today a very interesting video by Bible Project people in our featured video, and we put a very good videos that we find, or the ones that we find on the web, or the ones that we produce, and we'll always put it in the student corner for you to enjoy. And today's video, I think it was called The Law of God, or The Story of the Law, or something like that. It's very, very interesting. But that particular video shows highlights, you can watch it in the student corner later, why you should not refer to the Torah as the law, because actually there is very little law in the Torah. Most of the things in the Torah is actually not law. There are some laws and commandments and stipulations and regulations, of course, but most of the things in the Torah is actually stories, and some laws are put in between of those stories. But really, the Torah is a story of love of God and His people, and how these people are being birthed from first into a family and then into a covenant nation. All right. Now let's go ahead and continue. So here's what Moses is asking. Now, if I have truly gained your favor, let me know your way, that I may know you and continue in your favor and see this nation as your people. Actually, that you will see the nation. So, in other words, Moses here is after God on some very important points. Those of you who have children, and most of you do or did, and so you, of course, you were a kid once, and you know how children very often will catch a parent or a grandparent by their word. So the parents would say something, and then the kid would say, but you said. And what you have to understand, this is exactly what Moses is doing here. He is catching God, and he's holding him to the account of his word. God said to him that I know you by name, and he said that you have found favor in my eyes. You have found grace in my eyes. Now Moses is saying, all right, this is great. Now this is the case. Since you know me by name, since I have found favor in your eyes, I want more. I want to know your way. Hudieni na et derchecha. So do let me know. Actually, it's got even the word here, please. Do let me know, please. It's a polite way, really, of referring your way, that I may know you and continue in your favor. And then what separates Moses from what really have to keep us interpreting Moses within his own time, within his own if you would, missional disposition, is that Moshe does not think of himself as an individual in individual relationship with his God. No. Moses understands that he represents Israel as people. Moses understands that he is intercessor between God and his people. And so whenever God says something to him that you, Moses, have found favor in my eyes, Moses says, this is great, and I want to know your way, and I want you to count this people as yours. See, in other words, there is no way that Moses would ever tell God, God, please make me your follower, your believer, your son. No, Moses doesn't think this way. Moses thinks communally. Moses thinks biblically. Moses thinks within the peoplehood that he represents. All right, let's go ahead and move on and see if we can keep picking up on some of incredible stuff that's here. So, and this is what Moses continues to escalate a bit. Vayomer, so, and he said, and this is what God is saying, Panai yelechu vehanichoti lecha. So, literally, my face, this is literally, will be walking, my face will walk. This is what literally it says. Now, in the Hebraic expressions, this is really my presence will go and establish you, okay? Or it says here, lighten your burden. That's also a possible translation. Now, here's what Moses is answering him. Now, this is Moses entering this challenging mode towards God. Veyomer elav, im ein panecha olchim, al ta'alenu mizeh. Now, this is, wow, this is what we call a holy chutzpah, right? So God is saying to him that Panai yelechu, so my face will go before you, all right? Moses is saying, he's repeating, he's talking back to God, all right, in a holy reverence, but he's holding it with, talking back to him with a great holy chutzpah, or chutzpah, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Im ein panecha olchim, if your face does not go does not walk, okay? So and this is how the translation goes. Unless you go, okay? Now they're saying here in the lead, but in the lead is not really here, okay? If your face does not go, okay? And then al ta'alenu mizeh, literally, do not lift us up from this. Meaning is, don't pick us up from this place. All right. Now, this is good time to ask this important question: why isn't Moses satisfied with God's messenger? After all, I mean, you and I going through troubles of our lives, and there's not family on the planet Earth that doesn't have some kind of skeleton in the closet or some kind of big challenge. It could be health, it could be relationship, could be anything, could be financial, could be absolutely anything. And wouldn't you, I would, be satisfied if God said to me in a very personal way, I know you by name, and you know what, Eli, I am good. By the way, this is how you pronounce my name, not Eli. I understand E-L-I sounds like Eli, but it's really Eli because it's short for Eliyahu, which is Elijah. All right. So if you want to call me Eli or Dr. Eli, whatever you'd like, this is the better way. Now, I also respond to Dr. Eli. So if you forget and you say Dr. Eli, it's not a problem. I do not get offended. All right. So, but if God told me, Eli, what I'm going to do is, because I love you and because I know you and because you have found favor in my eyes, I'm going to send an angel, a messenger of some sort, to protect you along the way. I would say, wow, God, thank you. Thank you so much. This is incredible. And you know what? I would be encouraged and I would be strengthened, and so will you, I think. But not Moses. So, why not? Why does he bargain hard for God himself to do the job? So we will see this very soon, that he does not want the messenger to come. He wants God to come. Why? What does he know? Really, when something like this happens, you kind of wonder, what does he know about God's character and the nature of the children of Israel that we don't know? All right. Well, let's go ahead and proceed with this. I'm hoping that I have intrigued you enough that we can continue to do that here, to move on. And the Lord said to Moses, I will also do this thing that you have asked, for you have truly gained my favor, and I knew you by name. He said, and then he said, oh, and you have to kind of understand this, because we have read this text over and over and over again. If you've been in church or congregation or a Messianic synagogue, this kind of text, or if you've done your own devotional studies, you are so familiar with this text, it's too familiar, all right? And so we tend to overlook things. And so we don't understand that when God is saying this to Moses, and then Moses is going, and you have to see this as that Moses is going up and up and up and up. And just as a child, holding a parent by his word, children also do know how to sort of push the envelope, push something to the limits, right? You give them in the Russian language there is a phrase that says you give him a finger and he'll bite you off your elbow. And what that basically means is that it goes from smaller to the greater. And in a sense, this is what first Moses said. Moses says, listen, this is all great, but I want to know you, and I want you to take Israel as your people, and remember them, and consider them as your people. Because remember what just happened, the golden calf incident. And God said, you know what? What I'm going to do, Moses, is I'm going to destroy this people. This is a very bad start. This is a very bad start. This particular enterprise has no future. So I'm going to destroy it. And you know what, Moses? You have found favor in my eyes. You really did. Just like Noah, just like Abraham. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wipe wipe it all clean, and I'm going to start a new Israel, new nation from you, Moses. What do you think about that? And of course, Moses would have none of this, because he believes strongly in God's prior work, great work of redemption that has already been done among the people of Israel, first as a family and later as a nation. And so first Moses bargains with God and says, God, I want you to think of them as your people. Yes, they're dirty. Yes, they're disobedient. Yes, they're stubborn. By dirty, I mean not all sheep are clean, but you're their shepherd. And so here, Moses actually is going step up, and he's going for something that you and I would never go for. We would not ask for this if we actually knew what we're asking. So Moses is saying to God, Hareini na et kvodecha. Show me your glory. Show me your glory. Now, the Hebrew word kavod, or glory, is connected with word, for example, to say kaved is to say heavy. Okay? So if you're going to honor your father and mother, it's the same exact word. To honor your father and mother, but actually, if you are going to dishonor your father and mother, the Hebrew has a different word for it, and the word there has to do with making it light. So to honor means to consider someone heavy, and to dishonor means to consider someone light, to deal with them as if they're light, not heavy. And so literally here, Moses is saying, God, show me your weight. Show me your heaviness. Show me, this is what we mean by your glory. So not only that Moses wants to know God's ways, but he is not satisfied unless he knows God in the closest way possible. And he doesn't really know what's possible and what's not possible. He doesn't know that. And so he's pushing an envelope. As a good Israelite, he's pushing the envelope. ויאמר לא תוכל לראות את פניי, כי לא יראני האדם וחי. And this is what God is answering to Moses, is that you will not be able to see my face, because no man can see my face and expect to live. Now, there's all kinds of problems with this later on, because we actually see Jacob wrestling with Ish, with someone, with a man of some sort. And then when that particular messenger of God puts his mark on Jacob, Jacob leaps, you remember that particular encounter. He calls that place Penuel, because he saw God face to face, and yet his life was spared. And what's interesting about the Torah and how it's different from us is that you and I normally tend to systematize everything. In today's faith communities, we're taught, most of the times, we're taught to sort of bring all Bible together. And when some things seem to be contradictory, it bothers us very much. And so we need to explain it away somehow to make it all fit. Now, I know you that way, and I know I'm that way. But what's interesting is the Torah is not that way at all. The Torah, very, very often, and the entire Bible actually, is far less concerned about making things fit that we are. Now, of course, we can approach the Bible in modern scientific way and try to fit it all into nice package, or we can go the Torah way and take actually separate texts for what they are and concentrate on them and not try to too much systematize them with other texts. Okay, this I think that you will find that if you adopt this kind of approach, there's a lot more interesting things that you'll be able to see that way. So, and the Lord, and Hashem said, see, there is a place near me. Station yourself on the rock, and as my glory passes by, okay, as my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock and shield you with my hand until I have passed by. Now, it's interesting that God could have said, he could have stopped where he did before. And he could have said that, no one can do it. No can do Moses. You're asking too much, so please take this no for an answer. But that's not what God actually wanted. God apparently was pleased with the request of Moses. God wanted for Moses to be known. You know, we are made into the image of God. And you and I are people that want to be not only loved, but also known. We want to be known. This is how marriage works. This is how friendship, close friendship works. This is how true faith works, is that there is deep within us a desire to be loved and to be known. And you know what? This is where we get our desire from. Our desire to be loved and to be known comes from us being made into the image of God. God, even though Moses cannot see exactly what he's asking to see, God says, but I still want you to know me as much as possible. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide you in the cleft of the rock, and I am going to pass by, and you'll be able to see something. Now, this is where it gets a bit uncomfortable, because we're not talking about here what in theology is called pre-incarnate Lord Jesus Christ. We're talking here about Father God, so to speak, right? And yet, he's speaking here in the kind of language that bothers a lot of Jews, and it bothers a lot of Christians, and certainly bothers a lot of Muslims, if not everybody. And that is the kind of language that's being used here. It says, then I will take my hand away, and you will see my back, my Ahorai, what is behind me. It's not clear what is it that he's actually going to be seeing. But it's like God is passing by and that he's going to catch a glimpse of him. This is the closest, absolute closest Moses can get to God and be alive. And God wants him to be alive. Right? Upanai lo ereu. But, and, my face must not be seen. Now, it must not be seen because of mercy of God, because of the great holiness of God, because utmost holiness of God, and because of the reality of the human sin, reality of even the sin of the greatest of the prophets, such as Moses. Now, we are ushered into the story, and here's what we read, all right? So, in Hebrew it says, Ve'yavor Hashem Adonai. There's different ways that we can pronounce this. Al panav. Va'ikara Adonai, Adonai, El Rahum Ve'Hanun, Erech Apanim, Ve'Rav Chesed Ve'emet. So, and the Lord passed before his face, so Moses' face, and called out, Adonai, Adonai. This is the covenantal name of God, Yud Hey Vav Hey, the in Judaism unpronounceable because of its utmost holiness name of God. And this is the description of God. El Rahum, God compassionate. Ve Chanun, and full of grace. Full of grace. And this is an interesting Hebraic expression. Erech Apanim. Now, to say that someone is getting angry, in Hebrew, you're going to be using the word for nose, af, af. You know, the word face in Hebrew, panim, is the only word. The face is the only part of the body that actually, by looking at a person, you could tell if this person is happy or that person is sad, of what's going on. And only good actors can really hide what's going on inside of the person, really. And so, so in Hebrew today, for example, when you're talking about ministry of interior, the inside, the ministry that deals with the issues on the inside, right, of the country, you would use the same Hebrew word that's connected with the word for face. Okay, now here the word is the root word that's connected meaning is af, or nose. Now, what do you do with your nose when you get really, really angry? Okay, you kind of begin going like this. And your nose is so. In other words, in the ancient Hebrew, to speak of anger means to speak of the nose that's sort of moving harder and harder from anger. And what's interesting here that it says is that God is of a long nose. Now, this is literal. This is how literal Hebrew language works. Of course, you can't translate this that God's got a long nose. Okay, the way you translate this is that He is very, very slow to anger. He takes very long time to get to this anger part. Okay, to get to the nose part. All right. I hope that you are beginning to get enchanted by the kind of insights that you can pick up by actually going into the Hebrew language under the translation. I just find this fascinating. So, Verav Chesed, and he is of a lot of mercy. He's of a lot of mercy and truth. He's got a lot of it. He's abounding, and this is good translation. Abounding in kindness and faithfulness. He's abounding in this. He doesn't have lack. He's got too much of it. So let's keep reading here. So in verse 7 we read here, extending. So God just passed by. As he's passing, he's pronouncing his holy covenantal name, Yud Hey Vav Hey. And he's pronouncing these things that he's merciful, he's abundant, he's long, his nose is long. He takes too long to get angry. Extending the kindness to the thousands of generations, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. Now, folks, pay attention to this, because this is the key to something that's about to come up. Okay? Do you remember what God said to Moses when he said that he will send a messenger and that a messenger must not be disobeyed? Why must he not be disobeyed? Because he shall not lift up the transgression of Israel. But here, something else. God himself is passing by, and he's described as someone that visits and punishes, yes, but he is long-suffering, and that he does, in fact, forgives iniquity, transgression, and sin. The same word here. He does lift up, meaning he take it away. He does forgive. Now, this is crucial. So Moses had already known that, I think, but now he's being confirmed that mercy is not something that God does. Mercy is very much part of God's very being, his very essence, his very character, his very nature, if we can speak of it in this kind of ways. So, what happens right after that? And this is where you truly can see Moses not only as a prophet and a king, but really as a priest, someone who intercedes on behalf of God's people. Now, this is going to be beautiful, folks, if you can get this, all right? Take a look at this. Moses hastened to bow low to the ground in homage and said, now remember, he's still keeping God by his word, right? Veyomer, and he said, Im na matzati chen be'enecha. Again, he's basing everything on this. If I have found grace in your eyes, and of course he knows that he did. Adonai, Yelech na Adonai. May the Lord. Now, I want to highlight something here, is that he is not actually pronouncing the covenantal name that God had just pronounced. So Moses himself did not pronounce the Yud Hey Vav Hey name that God just revealed to him in such a dramatic way. He is switching to the Adonai. Yelechna Adonai bikirbeinu, close to us. Now, pay attention to this. If you're reading this closely, this should not make sense in the beginning. So he's saying, may God go with us and be close to us, because am kashe oref hu. Kashe oref is this stiff-necked. Kashe is hard, oref is neck, so hard-necked people. Ve salachta le'aonenu ve lechatatenu ve nachaltanu. Okay, so listen, let's read this in translation because this will help a bit. If I have gained favor in your eyes, O Lord, pray, let the Lord go in our midst, because this is a stiff-necked people. Pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for your own. This is very interesting. And, you know, the Jewish sages, as they struggled with this verse, they came up with all kinds of interpretations and explanations, and, well, maybe it's this, and maybe it's that, and maybe it's not really this, maybe it's not really that. But in the end, folks, this is exactly what we're having here. What we see here is a fascinating argument of someone who understands both the great sinfulness, or how he puts it here, kashe oref, kshe oref, stiff-neckedness of God's people, that God had begun already to establish and mold and create into his covenantal people. He understands two things. He understands that they're kashe oref, that they're stiff-necked, spiritually speaking, and yet he understands that God is long-nosed, that God is abundant, Rav Chesed, that he is full of mercy. His mercies are too much for him, basically. It's too much. He's full of mercy. He's just not enough of mercy. He is full of mercy. And folks, I think there is in certain sense, I want you to understand what Moses understood. There's a great application here. There's so much. So often we look at our God and our relationship with Him as His mercy is sufficient for us. But folks, it is not sufficient for us. It is overabundant. It's raf chesed. It's too much for us. And this is how we need to approach God. That He has a wide heart. That He is truly slow. He is truly slow to get His nose going in anger. He is forgiving. He forgives. He pardons our iniquity, our sin, our transgression. And He can take us for His own. This is interesting. For His own heritage, for His own, that we will belong to Him. And this is what really, this is why Moses was saying to God, God, I know that you want to send the messenger. I know that normally this would be great. And you know what? This would have been, this is a great idea. But you know what? Israel will never survive. We will never survive if a messenger comes because I know that they're kasher orev. I know that they're stiff-necked. They're never going to make it. They're never going to make it, and I want them to make it. If I have found favor in your eyes, I am part of this people. I do not see myself apart from this people. So if I have found favor in your eyes, take this people too. This is what Moses is doing. This is, folks, is the ultimate priesthood. And then he argues with God and he says, no. Don't send the messenger. Go yourself. If your own face does not go, do not lift us up. For it's better that you just destroy us here and now. But don't take us up and don't send a messenger, because I know what's going to happen. We're going to sin, they're going to sin, and they will be destroyed. And I cannot let this happen. You come. Yes, you punish. Yes, you're just. But you're slow to anger. But you're full of mercy. And this is what Moses is banking on, folks. Moses understood the incredible grace, incredible mercy of God to His people. Now, this Moses' comment anticipated the famous and audacious, let's just call it this way, prayer of a Hasidic rabbi a couple hundred years ago. Actually, I may have some relative or my great-grandparents was simply from the same town of Berdichev in Ukraine. But this particular Hasidic master's name was Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev, or Berdichev Rabbi, as he's known. His famous prayer goes like this. Listen to these words, folks. Lord of the universe, I want to propose a deal. We have many sins. You have much forgiveness. Let us exchange our sins for your forgiveness. And if you should say that this is not a fair exchange, then my reply is, if we had no sins, what would you do with all the forgiveness?